So I don't have any informed opinion to offer regarding the economic causes of the housing shortage.
Hi Dan, so I'm an economist and I hope I can add to that. Dan is responding to a Dave Ramsey clip.
How is it considered ethical for people to own so many houses? I'm just wondering how, as a Christian, this isn't seen as greed. Don't you know that buying up all these homes is what's causing the housing shortage?
It's not what's causing the housing shortage. Investors buying up houses is not causing the housing shortage.
On the economic question, it's a little awkward sometimes to agree, but Ramsey is right. These large investors, Blackstone and others on Wall Street, those owning more than 1,000 units, comprise a tiny sliver of the housing market combined. It's not big enough to control it. I go into a whole lot more sources and charts here in a video I recently made.
You really don't want your economic lessons on TikTok.
I will not take that personal. So the reason I stitched Dan's video is because he talks a lot about the ethics of inequality in the Bible. For instance, he goes to 700 BC in the Levant.
What this did was create a lot of economic inequality, where the wealthy were hoarding more of the wealth and the non-wealthy were in control of less and less wealth and had greater and greater risks. And this resulted in a lot of debt slavery and a lot of land consolidation.
Now, a lot of these critiques are going to last for millennia. I'm going to zoom forward to 800 AD. Pope Leo III, he was kind of famous because he crowned Charlemagne, he said the following: "It is difficult for sin not to intervene in the commerce between buyer and seller." Merchants and commerce in Christendom were often considered a necessary evil, something we have just to get by, but really a bit icky. This starts to change around 1000 AD. I'm going to zoom into Bernardino of Siena, who El Greco painted very beautifully in 1603. In 1474, he wrote a series of sermons called Concerning Contracts and Usury, and he's relatively pro-commerce. He says merchants are therefore importing and exporting. They're therefore preserving and storing. Wholesale and retail add value. Part of that supply chain, as we would call it today. And this is good. This is bringing increased prosperity. But there is another way that people get rich that he condemns. A monopoly is called a person who obtains that he alone is allowed to sell certain goods. And for those who practice this are condemned to perpetual exile, despoiled of their own goods. And so we have these two ways of getting rich. Cornering the market, monopolizing, restricting it, extracting from others. That'll get you condemned to hell. And then on the other hand, mutually beneficial commerce. Now let's zoom forward to 1729 to another Bernard of Mandeville, who wrote a book with the subtitle Private Vices, Public Benefits. And he argued that greed is good, and that greedy beehives with their jealousy would work harder and therefore survive the winter better. I mean, as a metaphor for commerce, that greed helped motivate us to build wonderful things, right? Well, Adam Smith, the father of modern economics, read it and utterly disagreed. In his 1759 book, The Theory of Moral Sentiments, he called Mandeville's work pernicious. Mandeville too narrowly labeled private vanity as the cause for material benefits. Just because you like to wear a clean shirt, Smith says, doesn't mean you're greedy. And Smith continues this hatred of monopolists, especially when businesses get together and collude against the general interest of the public. And specifically for landlords, he writes that they reap where they do not sow.
I own, I don't even know, 15, 20 houses.
Now to answer the original question, is it morally ethical to own 15 to 20 houses? Following the dichotomy we have now seen since at least 1475, the question becomes, is 15 or 20 houses enough to corner a market, exercise monopoly control? In Smith's day, the landlords had this. They were monopolists over the land. They inherited the land or conquered it. It wasn't earned. As he said, there is never any such thing as a fair and equal division, since those who labor most get the least. The poor laborers bears, as it were, upon the shoulders the whole fabric of society. But something has changed since Smith's day. Extreme poverty is now on its way to extinction. The tremendous amount of economic growth that we have seen since Adam Smith published Wealth of Nations in 1776 has been unfathomable. So much so that the majority of the homes in the United States are owner-occupied. That's this shading right here. The light gray shading are for landlords who own between 1 and 9 units. There are over 90 million homes in this country. Owning 20 of them isn't going to corner any market. The real estate market is competitive, not monopolistic. So, how has housing turned into the #1 problem in the American economy? We stopped building them. We are easily 5 or 6 or even 7 million units short of where we would otherwise be had we kept up with historical trends. What's at fault? Increased construction costs and regulations not allowing us to build what we would want to build. How do we solve it? We have to encourage construction. Public policy got us into this mess, and public policy is going to have to get us out of it. We have to encourage investment. We have to encourage renovation so that dilapidated homes can come onto the market and be livable again. A lot of those are for-profit investors who engage in that kind of activity. My name's Econ Chris Clark. Give me a follow. We'll talk more economics and how to make the world a better and more prosperous place for everyone.